Afterlife is no ordinary overhaul mod for 7 Days to Die. I asked on the Discord how some of the players would describe Afterlife. Their responses led to this. Welcome to Afterlife, because when plain old vanilla feels like a nap, it's time for an upgrade immersive survival wake-up call. This is the mod that will have you questioning your hydration choices, unlocking your inner interior designer, and teaching you the fine art of not panicking. Oh, and if you thought you knew how to prioritize, think again. This journey is about to teach you what really matters, one hopeful decision at a time. With this mod, we are going down under. Redbeard is our author and originates from the east coast of Australia, which is way down this side of the world. He says that Ravenhurst was an influence in Afterlife, but not in the traditional sense. Redbeard actually used to write a lot of C# code for Ravenhurst some time back, and later on he then moved on to his own mod. The world in Afterlife is quite different from vanilla. Redbeard has overhauled the traditional biomes so that they fit his vision of a dystopian and dark world ravaged by the infection. If you take a look at a normal vanilla location, you are quite familiar with the layout. I wouldn't call this a forest. Now, if you shift over to the exact same location, but in Afterlife, you can immediately see the difference. Dense forest that has been overgrown with time. As we walk through, it shows the dense growth, the branches forming a canopy that filters sunlight, casting the ground in dappled shadows. Occasionally, the distant hum of bees can be heard from stumps when nature has lost a tree or you have cut it down, and the bees have moved in to call it a temporary home before you empty the hive of its valuable honey. You have a similar situation with the snow biome. In vanilla, we have a location that shows off the sparsity of the biome, while in Afterlife, there is more overgrowth and certainly the view distance, not only owing to fog, but a haze that is giving off an eerie glow. Both the wasteland and burnt biomes have not that much done to the environment, but in Afterlife these biomes do give off an eerie atmosphere. The cloud cover that often appears can especially be noticed in the burnt biome, which has almost a dark and evil presence about it. It is the desert that has a stark reminder that this is not vanilla. If you take a location in vanilla on a hillside looking over a town, then we pan over to the same place, but now it has the Afterlife rework done to it. The desert seems to stretch endlessly, waves of heat shimmering off the cracked sun-baked earth. The air is thick and heavy, cloaking everything in a dusty golden haze that blurs the horizon. Sparse, twisted plants cling to life in the sand, with occasional areas dotted around with life and the occasional whisper of hot wind stirring up the grains of sand. The nights in Afterlife are very dark. Thankfully, you've been provided with a means to equip a torch on your person, and this light makes all the difference, albeit it does expire now and then. Water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a survival game, and Afterlife puts new meaning into the desire for survival. You will feel the burn as you struggle to survive in the early game, trying to muster your resources for water. The infection that has set into the world has entrenched itself into the very fabric of the ecosystem. Except for a few sealed containers, water is infected, so you need to double boil it, leading to very long waits for clean water. A new player can take more than 30 minutes to boil some dirty infected water. There are means to upgrade and make this process faster, but the struggle in the first week or two can be quite a challenge. You can find water, but you need to go out and explore. You also need glass jars to hold water, so you must find those. So you're stuck in a catch-22. You must go out, but that burns water as you encounter the zombies. But you certainly can't stay at the base and die of thirst. Infection and disease. You won't see it initially, but it is there, lurking, and at some point it will pounce and maybe catch you off guard when you least expect it to show up. The infection will show up suddenly on your screen. It'll appear as this icon at the bottom left, and it will slowly tick upwards and sometimes even start at a very high percentage. You'll need to combat it in the early game with honey and special mushrooms. These mushrooms only come out at night, so you'll need to muster up the courage to venture out in the evening. So if the zombies don't kill you, then it is quite likely hunger, thirst and infection will do just that. If slower progression and struggles with water are not enough to put a damper on the party, then let's hit you with yet another feature. No compass, no watch, and no map. Even though one of the starting options does give you a watch to tell the time of day, most players will go into the mod as blind as a bat. Snail trails here and there, sticking to roads and side paths, trying not to get hopelessly lost. It can happen so easily. The first 2 days I stuck it out in a cabin in the woods, visited by mud people, which is what I started to call the indigenous folk that came to say hello. There is no nighttime sound at 10 PM. There is no morning alarm clock. In fact, the only sound is when the blood moon hits and the sounds of crickets at certain times of the day. Your map can be crafted, but it is unlikely that you are going to get this in the first couple of days, and some will only get it in the following week or two. And some could go for weeks without a watch. In a recent patch, Redbeard has made it easier to obtain a watch. Afterlife introduces a whole new mechanic for you to worry about: vitality. It appears on your screen with this symbol, which is the official symbol of some health services around the world. It is the caduceus, a staff with 2 snakes coiled around it. When you start the game, your vitality is very high, but this will slowly tick down to 0 unless you do something about it. It is affected by many aspects in the game. Looking under your character menu is your summary of these buffs and everything that is causing your vitality to go up or down. Unleash your inner interior designer. You'll notice many items in the world and furniture have decorateurs written on them. This lines up with the effects that decorations can have on your vitality. So a pool table is a tier 4 item, while many pictures and signs could be a tier 1 or 2. Being around these items will help boost your vitality. Darkness can decrease your vitality or not being rested. Of course, naturally, being bashed in by zombies, being infected, and getting wet, all of these things will decrease your vitality. One of the most noticeable huge disadvantages of low vitality is the terrible stamina. I'll be going into this and ways to maintain this in my tips and tricks guide after this video. Food poisoning is in the mod. Well, of course it is. But it has a twist, and I don't think I've seen it work this way before in any other mod. Now, normally if a food has a chance of food poisoning, it will show up as a percentage on the food item. So you would eat the food and hope that you don't end up with the shits and with food poisoning. However, in Afterlife, it works quite differently. Foods don't have a chance of food poisoning anymore. Foods like sham sandwiches, which when you eat, will give your stomach a certain level of poisoning. So as I eat this food, the food poisoning symbol appears, and the more bad foods that I eat, the higher its level will become. Hit 100% and you will end up vomiting all your food out. Not a good idea. Losing your food and water will make you a very unhappy survivor. The world you have found yourself in is deserted, and you appear to be the only living person left. Located in their usual places, the trader compounds of Joel, Bob, Rect, and Hugh are dotted around the world. Each compound, once a sanctuary, is now overrun by zombies, with broken fences and ransacked supplies hinting at the chaos that possibly unfolded. The traders themselves are nowhere to be found, leaving survivors wondering what happened to the traders who once offered hope and supplies in the darkest of times. Now, I never mentioned Jen. She is not only missing, but her compound doesn't exist at all. For now, she is not part of the mod, and according to Redbeard, this could change in the future and could be part of a story that Redbeard is concocting. The lack of traders is very important. The mod relies a lot on exploration. No traders, no trader quests. Many of us hide behind these to advance the game. However, in Afterlife, this method does not exist. You do have these interesting vending machines that allow you to buy some food and guns, or convert your old money into coins. But other than that, no selling or buying other needed supplies. So your primary way of obtaining components, resources, loot and rewards is getting your butt out there and exploring. There is certainly no shortage of items to find, so salvage the crap out of everything and occasionally find a treasure map, as these are very rewarding. A major part of the mod is managing your loot and items you are carrying. Afterlife, trying to walk the fine line of realism in the game, pushes you to manage what you carry. You have not only weight to be concerned about, but also the number of items that you are carrying. This makes exploring in the early part of the game quite challenging and forces you to change your strategy as you attempt to expand your territory. Various paths in crafting have numerous different backpacks, hiking bags, and rucksacks that can be used to upgrade your storage. However, with so many zombies around, the need to explore drives you to see what the mod has to offer in the line of wheels. There are no trader rewards or miracles that are going to get you your wheels. You'll have to earn them the hard way by crafting. Afterlife moves through the vehicle stages of bicycle, then the mini bike and the motorbike. However, the buggy is next, which fits quite well if at this point you're getting into the desert biome. Following this is the 4x4 and then the box truck, which is there to accommodate the huge amount of space and additional weight you may need for transporting goods. Finally, there is the traditional gyrocopter. Vehicles have a weight maximum, so don't expect to pile 300 tons of rock onto your person and by the miracle of combustion somehow become as light as a feather once you jump onto your mini bike. You need to craft better vehicles to carry more items, and it is important that you prioritize. You'll feel the desperation of needing transport at the start, but figuring out how to craft those wheels, along with negotiating all the other essential crafting items out there, is quite difficult, and prioritizing is a necessity. Right, the important bit. Here is the vanilla attribute and perk display. Here is the Afterlife revamped system. Similar to vanilla, there is perception, strength, fortitude, agility, and intellect. However, Redbeard has introduced a new attribute called finesse. This is especially connected with using your knives, bows, and lockpicking, for example, or basically actions that have a fine manipulation of your hands and fingers. Take the time to read the information, as it will help you understand what influences them and how you can get them to be increased. Your attributes and skills are directly influenced by your actions. This has been a trend over the past few years. Many overhauls have been moving back to the learn by doing system, and Afterlife is no exception. Right next door to the attributes are the skills. As with attributes, any form of action will impact particular skills. For example, if I chop down this tree, certain skills will be increased. You can actually see them appearing at the bottom, quite transparent, but you can match the symbols with the skills on the skills page. As you gain experience by chopping, salvaging, killing, shooting, stabbing, or whatever, you will gain experience and various skills, and your attributes will increase. Read the information on the skills, as it gives an excellent breakdown of which skill contributes to each attribute. With your attributes, as each level increases, you will see the bottom half of the circle increasing. With each level you get in the lower half, this in turn increases the overall attribute. As mentioned, slow progression is a game feature. It will take many weeks of in-game playing to move these attributes and skills to very high levels. The third tab is the perk books. You have seen these before. Not much change from vanilla, but mainly how they are presented. So you can see quickly how many books you have read and how many are in each series. A very nice and beautiful layout that Redbeard has opted for. Magazines are still here, so when it comes to crafting, you will need to find magazines and use them to level up your ability to craft better weapons, better tools, workstations, and well, most items in the game. Compared to vanilla, as I mentioned, the mod demands prioritization and selecting which crafting magazines or a shortlist to work on first. Finally, perks. This is the only place where you can add points. As you level up your attributes and skills, you gain experience, and this white bar will move across the screen. Any points you gain, you can then apply to this page. A number of these perks are new and are quite specific to Afterlife. I will chat to you more about these in my tips and tricks guide, but for now, vitality and survival are something you should probably concentrate on in the early game. The mod has many different crafting ingredients and resources. First up, it has a pretty unique way of searching through stacks of bricks, pallets and sacks. You don't have to break them down, such as using a pickaxe or an axe or possibly a shovel. Instead, in Afterlife, you just search them and get things through that means. There are a large number of additional ores and metals to play with in the mod. As before, there is coal and good old iron ore, oil shale, and you'll also find gold and silver while mining. Redbeard has done a marvelous job with the new resource textures, all uniquely represented as well, and for many players, you may have not heard of some of these. Chalcopyrite ore is your source of copper. Cassiterite ore is a tin oxide metal and your source of, well, obviously tin. Anthracite is a more compact form of coal, and this is going to be needed when you start looking at steel. Sphalerite ore is a source of zinc. Then there is galena ore, and this looks like what many know as lead in Afterlife. You will be mining chromite ore for your means to smelt and obtain chromium. Then there is another one that you know quite well, which is niter ore. This is the mineral form of potassium nitrate and the source of nitrate powder. Finally, we have the most difficult ore to obtain, and this is goniarite. Goniarite is a greenish color and is a much needed source for nickel. You will need this for one of the ingredients for crafting the Inconel super alloy, which is then used in the highest tier of weapons. The mod does spread the various ores and resources among different biomes, but I will get to that in the next guide. For crafting, one of the earliest options is the research bench, which is very important to craft magazines and various books. This helps immensely with prioritizing which crafting track you wish to work on. In Afterlife, you will be able to craft a forge a long time before you actually get to the workbench. Owing to how resources are more realistically maintained in Afterlife, you won't be able to construct concrete bases from your own crafted cement in the first few weeks. So, having a cement mixer is deliberately added much later in the game when you are further along. For the forge, smelting is required, and Afterlife has the most elaborate system I've seen in a forge. When you add numerous ores and resources to the forge, you will in turn smelt into a certain number of kilograms, which can in turn then be crafted into whichever metal. Forge heat is very important. You must check the particular metal you want to craft for the heat level that is required for smelting. So at the start of the game, coal is generally your best heat producer, while anthracite is something that you will need to burn in the later game when you start looking at steel. So for building, we have a very elaborate system that Redbeard has constructed for us. First up, forget running around with hundreds of wood frame blocks for quick nerd polling or easily blocking doorways. Believe me, you will be dead by the time you start trying to jump on your first block. Anything you wish to build, you must first put down a blueprint or plan your construction. You can lay out your blueprint shapes where you wish to place them, similar to placing frame blocks, but in this case the blueprints are not actually blocks, just outlines of where you are going to build. One advantage of this is you can construct an entire base or see what something looks like before you actually start building. Using one of the mallets or hammers provided, you have different types of construction material. You have joined wood, then nailed wood, cobblestone, then brick. Next is concrete construction, then finally steel and Inconel blocks. To complicate things, but also to add a degree of realism, many of the materials also include items to bind and hold the materials together. So different types of pitch or mortar are required, and you'll have to mix and craft these first. In Afterlife, your tools will usually follow the path from the most primitive, which is stone, and moving through scrap, bronze, iron, steel, and then Inconel. Melee weapons are similar, starting with the stone or the bone primitive version, and then moving up to steel and sometimes inconel. However, it is the ranged weapons, especially the guns, that see many additional weapons. Redbeard has chosen Isaio's weapon pack to be included in Afterlife. This pack comes with 2 new calibers, the .45 and the 5.56, which also helps contribute to new guns. So we have no shortage of guns. With many shotguns, assault rifles, sniper and handguns now being included. As mentioned, you can buy your guns from vending machines and also craft them. But loot is where you will likely find them first, as long as you get out there into the desert and the snow biomes. What is important to note is that crafting items is your main way of obtaining better quality, though it will take you ages to do this. The mod has provided a means for you to make your own literature fragments from paper, which you can then in turn convert into magazines. This is well into the mid-game. So it does mean that the hundreds of magazines required for the better quality weapons are not impossible to obtain, but are mainly there for those hardcore players wanting to grind their way to them. So, what is the deal with the missing traders? Yes, it's a planned feature to remove traders so that they don't negatively impact your progression experience. However, Gen has been completely removed. No compound, nothing. Redbeard has said to me that he's left things a bit open-ended here so that he may build something in at a later point. The return of the traders won't fit the progression feature of the mod, so maybe the traders will have been turned into a boss zombie or something. Now that would be something pretty awesome. For now, the dev has chosen to stick with the vanilla monsters. However, there are numerous variations. The forest biome is filled with what I term as the mud people, or muddies. These zombies actually remind me of the crazy tribes people from the forest game. They're always darting around or slinking in the shadows in the trees. The darting around is often related to the hordes of animals, the wild pigs, the boars, rabbits and chickens in the mod. So the zombies are often looking for a quick meal and end up bumping into you. The muddies are weak, but certainly make up for their weakness in numbers, always pestering and annoying you in the early game. They are actually named as Rabid by Redbeard. By default, all the names are switched off, so you won't get to see them anyway. So for now, I will just stick to muddies for their zombie name. The Blood Moon is where you will first meet the ranged monsters. The stoners will show up very soon and are no laughing matter, pelting you with explosive objects which can be quite blinding at times. Then there are the Pyroskeletons, which, as their name suggests, throw fireballs. Redbeard has done some balancing in his second patch for version 1, and these monsters should now make your life less of a complete living hell on higher levels. Just a minor living hell now. The dev also plans to add more monsters with interesting features. Some are already lurking on his planning table, so hopefully we will get to see these bastards of evil pretty soon. As you lock eyes with the zombies, there's no flicker of humanity left. It's not just death staring back at you, but a seething, ancient evil, cold and unfeeling that makes your blood run cold. Different zombies have different eye colors. Beware the orange or the yellow-eyed ferals. They will come seeking your flesh pretty soon. Who are the Whisperers? Some kind of children of the damned? I don't know. Their real name is Smart Zombie, probably as they open doors, seeking you out, no matter where you hide. These blue-eyed creatures will start to rock up at higher game stages, and they also dim your screen when they are near, whispering sweet nothings into your ear. When you eventually are insane enough to venture into the wasteland, the biome is packed with green rads dying to rush at you. As you move downtown, then you'll find many blue-eyed creatures all communicating like some kind of Borg hive mind seeking you out. Maybe these whisperers will be part of a story one day that gives us answers to Jen's disappearance. Or maybe I'm just reading a lot into this. Time will tell. Afterlife does certainly achieve its goal of trying to be an immersive survival overhaul with an emphasis on exploration and resource management. It may not be for everyone, and it is not advertised as that, but it is certainly one of the most well-made mods that I've ever played. There is a lot packed into this mod already, but it is still early days, and we'll have to see what Redbeard has for us. Expect to see the tips and tricks guide soon, and I will see you in the next one.